A very warm welcome to the 15 Jobs and Skills Insight webinar on impact of COVID-19 on the labour market, insights for road to recovery. I'm Kelly from Skills Development Division at Skills Futures Singapore, and I'll be your moderator today. Together with me are my colleagues Matthew and Phoebe. I'm happy that we have people from different enterprises, institutes of higher education, individuals, and fellow colleagues joining us today. SSG aims to provide all Singaporeans with the opportunities for lifelong learning. We believe that skills, passion, and contribution of each and every individual will drive Singapore's next phase of development towards an advanced economy and a more inclusive society. At every stage of your life, you can be sure to find a variety of resources to help you attain the skills mastery and make informed decisions to expand your skill set for professional and career development. Before we start, allow me to go through some administrative details. This entire webinar will take about an hour and 15 minutes. During the webinar, attendees are muted. However, you can post your questions anytime by using the Q&A option on your screen. You can upvote those questions that you want answered, and we will do our best to address them. If we are unable to answer all the questions during the session, please be assured that we will address them after the webinar. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the way we live, work, and play. Right from the initial stages of the pandemic, the way of life as we know it had to change, from business strategies, approaches, and operations to work processes and skills of each worker. As Singapore recalibrates itself and Singaporeans find their footing in this new operating environment, it is crucial that efforts are placed on supporting individuals to be equipped with the right skills to perform their work in the new working environment. Our speaker, Paying, leads the APAC Economic Graph team at LinkedIn, which builds the link between policy, economics, and data. Her team works with governments, public institutions, and policy influencers to gain insights on how jobs and skills will change in the near to long term and identify opportunities for the workforce. She will be sharing on the local market trends and how it impacts the local job market with insights to changing industry needs and job demands. Without further ado, I would like to invite Paying to share on LinkedIn's insights. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this rainy Tuesday morning. So I will be sharing on some insights that the LinkedIn Economic Graph has on the status of the labor market. I'll just wait for the organizers to put the slides on. There we go. All right. So we'll be sharing about labor market trends that we see from our data. Next slide, please. LinkedIn's vision, which I will start talking about first. Our vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. What this means is that we want to be able to use the insights that we get from LinkedIn's economic to pass real-time information on trends that are emerging in the labor market. Next slide, please. So LinkedIn is really a global platform that has talent from all over the world. As of our most recent update, we have over 706 million members worldwide, and this number is constantly growing as we add 2 new members per second. We cover over 200 countries and territories and are present in America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Next slide, please. LinkedIn's Economic Graph is a digital representation of the global economy, and we look not just at the number of members, but we also have over 55 million companies, 36,000 different skills that members list on the platform, 90,000 different schools that are listed on the platform, and over 11 million open jobs. Through mapping all of this information about companies, jobs, schools, and skills, our data can spot trends in migration, hiring rates, and changes in what's in demand by every region. These insights help us to connect people to economic opportunity. Next slide, please. So I'll now share some of our latest insights that we've seen in the labor market for Singapore. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is hiring. Hiring is a measure of the number of hires or people changing jobs divided by LinkedIn's membership in Singapore. Our analysis looks at year-over-year changes, which means that we compare a day in 2020 compared versus a day in 2019. This tells us how much has changed since the same period last year. Our analysis shown here was conducted for the period of February to the end of July 2020. So what we see in the middle of the graph is that when we went into the circuit breaker, the hiring rate started to decline slowly. And this is expected as businesses are not allowed to operate normally. In early June, once we exited and went into phase 1, we see a sharp increase in hiring. And this is due to pent-up hiring because a lot of companies who are unable to onboard or hire new people during the circuit breaker went on full force closer in the earlier parts of June. And that's why you see a huge spike there. Subsequently, in the following weeks, you see that it started to readjust itself, and it's now hovering just below 0%. So what this means is that it's almost the same as last year. But what we also expect is that in the short term, it's unlikely to recover because businesses are still not able to operate under full capacity. Next slide, please. We are also able to look at trends in different sectors. So at a sector level, we can see a growth in job postings for some sectors, such as healthcare, software and IT services, and finance. We also see a decline of job postings in other sectors, such as consumer goods, media and communications, and corporate services. So this is a trend of the year-on-year changes again, by looking at the change in job postings. Next slide, please. We also see that competition for jobs is increasing slightly as the number of average applications per job posted has gone up from around 40 at the beginning of 2020 to around 50 in July 2020. This is to be expected as the number of jobs have reduced and as more people are looking for jobs. We also can look at comparisons at the industry level for this. What we see are job seekers being more likely to consider switching industries right now compared to before COVID. So this is particularly prominent in industries that have been badly affected, such as construction and recreation and travel. As the economy begins to slowly recover, workers can consider new opportunities in different sectors and also to increase their job opportunities. Organizations can also consider hiring beyond traditional candidates coming from the same industry, and this will allow them to build a more diverse workforce. Next, please. So now I'm going to talk a bit about the Microsoft and LinkedIn Skills Initiative. This is a global skills initiative that Microsoft and LinkedIn have worked together. The commitment of this initiative is to help 25 million people worldwide acquire the digital skills that are needed post-COVID. For job seekers, what this means is that we have created free LinkedIn learning pathways and discounted certifications from Microsoft so that job seekers and anyone really alike can start to learn new skills. There are also various job seeker tools to help people looking for jobs to find new employment. We are also providing career coaching and support, as well as training and placements through partners. With governments, we are also providing data-driven insights with information about the skills and jobs that are in demand, and employers who are hiring during this period. Next slide, please. So these are the 10 different these are an example of 10 different LinkedIn learning paths that we are providing for free. And these paths will help you to build the skills for in-demand jobs. The roles include customer service, data analysts, and a range of other jobs ranging across sales and marketing. Next slide, please. So what we are doing with the skills initiative is that members who complete the skills can continue to learn more deeper technical skills for these 3 specific roles under Microsoft's learning modules as well. Next slide. Apart from the free learning paths, we have also unlocked free courses and LinkedIn tools to help job seekers search for their next opportunity. These include learning courses for improving critical soft skills, such as emotional intelligence and persuasion, training on how to be a better job seeker, how to find a job, and how to recession-proof your career, improve your resume, and tips on how to do an interview via video. And last but not least, using your profile and your network to better search for jobs, how to use your network, how to stand out with your profile, and how to set alerts for when jobs come in that are suitable for you. So I'm also going to share a dashboard that we've got. This is a publicly available dashboard showing the top trending employers, jobs, and skills. And these are the insights for Singapore. You can find more of these insights at the link below at opportunity.linkedin.com. Thank you for your time this morning, and I look forward to a really great discussion with the rest of the panelists.
Okay, thank you, Ping. Thank you very much for your sharing. I'm sure the attendees found some of the information useful, especially on certain sectors that have seen growth, as well as potential opportunities. We have a question here from one of the participants. Let me start. So we know that hiring is recovering, but it's expected to be subdued in the short term. Can LinkedIn share some specific job roles that were increased from the beginning of June this year? And specifically, are they from more entry-level or mid-career changes positions?
Okay, so if we go to slide 14. No, sorry, go down. So to the one with the 10 jobs listed. Yeah, this is the one. So these jobs were, these in-demand jobs were identified based on jobs that are still hiring, and also based on jobs that are that we see demand continuing to grow on the platform, and the level of seniority ranges across all.
Okay, thank you. Now, we have one more question. Are there more information in terms of job placement support with LinkedIn and Microsoft involved in Singapore?
So I believe that there will be, we currently have partnerships with various organizations through LinkedIn coaches. This is where we work with WSG as well, and many other organizations to provide career coaching for displaced workers.
Right. Okay, thanks, Ping. Thank you all for your questions. We will have time for more. But now I would like to invite the other panelists to join us for the panel discussion. On the panel, we have Mr. Samir Bindi from Ernst & Young, Ms. Sharon Yeo, founder of Digital Influence Lab, and Ms. Jael Cheng, co-founder and chief problem solver of My Working Title. Samir has vast experience in business strategies focusing on people organization dynamics across ASEAN. This includes organization and structuring manpower planning, job redesign and future of work, integration of performance and reward and talent programs, just to name a few. Thanks, Hamir, for joining us today. Could you share with us some of the changes you see on the ground and maybe some possible case studies with the audience? Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly, for the generous introduction, and thanks, Paying, for the very interesting slides. And very good morning to all the listeners and viewers for this session. Now, a couple of comments from my end. Firstly, COVID-19 has drastically changed this world. But what it's actually done is it's changed the pace of digital transformation. And it's also highlighted certain areas or certain sectors which are probably more disrupted than maybe certain other sectors. And Paying talked about earlier on that the likelihood of people moving across industries is probably more relevant today. And one of those reasons for that happening is the fact that if they find their skills that they pick up in a particular job relevant to another industry. So one of the approaches we've always said when we talk about transitioning of jobs is not to look at it only from a task-based angle. That means what are the tasks you're doing? Because tasks very often are linked to the industry in which you operate. But to look at it from a skills-based angle, in terms of to do those tasks, what are the skills you then develop, and therefore how you can imbibe those skills in a parallel industry or another industry that may require it. So let me share a few live examples from this, and I'll talk about maybe 2-3 industries so that we can give a good flavor of this across Singapore. I'll talk first of logistics, and this is an industry where EY put in some research along with the government around the impact of Industry 4.0 on the industry itself and on jobs in the industry. So what we actually found was the fact that technology solutions are changing the way jobs operate. For example, a technology solution could be a autonomous last mile delivery solution, or it could be a dynamic route optimization solution, or it could be an intelligent robotic process sorting solution, right? Now, these solutions are brought to life through AI, data analytics, blockchain, machine learning, so on and so forth, and therefore then impact jobs. It impacts jobs like, let's say, a forklift operator's job, right? But at the same time, these technology solutions do create new jobs. So while we do say high impact to certain jobs, it actually does create new jobs as well. It creates new jobs around the data sphere, around technology sphere, which becomes relevant for the future. So firstly, my first point when I went through those logistic solutions was to state that jobs do get impacted by digital transformation, but new jobs do get created. So it's not only a negative scenario. And actually the jobs that get impacted, if you look at it from a skills-based view, you're able to redesign and transform those jobs to the future, right? Let me just take another industry example to kind of bring it to life. If you take, let's say, the financial services industry, right? When you take retail banking, the traditional customer service associate's job is tremendously changed, right? But if you combine that with the right digital skills, you're able to then look at it as a digital ambassador job, which understands queries from clients, understands how to use it digitally, and then is the digital evangelist or the digital ambassador for clients. So you can actually make that transition happen if you look at it from a skills-based approach. Another last case study I share is from the finance function itself. Now, this is a study that EY did with ISCA and SUTD very recently. And we found out that the technology solutions of AI, of RPA, of blockchain, right, is impacting the finance industry as well. But the impact is probably larger at some of the more junior roles because, traditionally filling in financial data, getting that data, you'd probably have an RPA do it, right? Even checking for queries or things like that, you'll have, if you implement a good data analytics solution, you can zoom into certain high critical areas, right? So therefore, the need of the hour is to transition to higher productive jobs. And there's something that I always tell my clients, that there is no job that is going to go away. And and let me say this, a lot of people may disagree with me, and that's why I'm saying it. There is no job that is going to go away as long as we redesign the job. As long as we continuously redesign the job to make it ready for the future and skill it up to take up a larger proportion. And this is actually a good redesign is a good word. The reason is when you redesign the job, you make the job more productive. When you make the job more productive, you actually help the organization and you help the employee remain employed, because by helping the employee remain employed, you'll also give him or her a better career and a better dollars opportunity. My last comment, Kelly, before I pass it back to you, is learning is the new dollars. When you talk about value proposition in organizations, it used to be how much bonus, how much salary I get. To be true, and this is I tell to everyone in my team, that learning is the new dollars. Go for organizations that give you that lifelong learning mindset. Go for lifelong learning organizations, because then they can create a lifelong learning culture within you. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you very much, Samir. Thank you. I mean, SSG also sees companies ramping up on the digital capacity and online support overnight to cater the surge in demand for digital service across the industries. I'm just going to tie, we have a question from one of the attendees, but I'm just going to tie, how can companies get started on the digital transformation journey? Because we see that the word digital is rather broad, right? And are there specific aspects of digital skills that the companies can focus on? And how would this tie in together with the InDemand Jobs?
Yeah, so thanks for that, Kelly. I think starting off on the digital transformation journey is not as difficult as organizations may think. I think it's now a necessity for be relevant for the future. If I may, I just give you an example of another large program that is being led by the government. SSG is also involved with WSG and SBF. It's a Industry 4.0 Human Capital Initiative program where, you know, manufacturers in Singapore, if you were in the manufacturing industry and you basically were anyone that creates a raw material into a finished product, that means you have a manufacturing shop floor, you can embark on that Industry 4.0 Human Capital Initiative program, which basically is an 8-week program to help you get started on a digital transformation journey. The end question that we're trying to answer through that is, one, get you started on the digital transformation journey, at the same time redesign jobs, because you not only about transforming the organization, it's about reskilling the individuals in that organization to keep them relevant. So it's a quick program. Other programs may be relevant across the government, but it's not as difficult to start.
Right. Yeah, basically digital transformation and reskilling and relearning goes hand in hand in this current situation. Okay, I will move on. We have some more questions, but I'm just going to invite our next speaker, Sharon Neo, founder of Digital Influence Lab, to share a little bit more on the business digital end-to-end value chain and highlight the job opportunities and deep dive further into the skills needed to support this digital value chain. Sharon, so through these interactions with companies and employees, do you think that the mindset is there for the workforce to be going digital? And if they are or they aren't, what can we deep dive further into what you see are these skills?
Sure. Hi. Thanks so much for introducing me, Kelly. I think it's a great question. You're asking between employers and employees and mindset as well. So okay, thanks. My camera was off earlier. So basically, having worked with I think hundreds of companies during circuit breaker, it was very, very interesting. It was a very, very interesting time to see how everyone responded. So I had the opportunity together with SMU to help a lot of these businesses. I'll say like pivot, kind of figure out what the next steps are during this time. So you're absolutely right. I mean, mindset is really critical during the time of uncertainty, unprecedented time. We see so much disruption being caused by COVID, and that has made digital skills more essential than ever. Right. So I think I really come from a perspective of more of small businesses, SMEs, and really seeing how, what differentiates the different companies doing better than ever versus struggling, I suppose. Yeah. Right. So in terms of mindset, if that's something you want me to expand on, I think it's like general comfort with digital skills. Yeah. So not just technical hard skills. Of course, LinkedIn has a lot of initiatives, Microsoft, the SSG has a lot of initiatives on the technical hard skills, but I think you're absolutely right to point out there is that whole soft skill element, mindset element as well. How do you approach it? Do you approach it as like Samir said, right? It's not as difficult as it seems. Do you approach it with a mindset that, hey, wow, this is interesting. This is a new way to overcome this. We have new opportunities, new markets right now. Or are you going to see as, oh no, now I don't want to embrace this. I'm too afraid to try this. So I think that is like the first step, even before, not just about technical hard skills, but I think there's this whole, are you open to it? Are you comfortable with it? Or does it kind of scare you off? Yeah.
Great. So thanks, Sharon. I mean, we see that there's this change. Now we have a question. This is a very interesting question. So far, in terms of, we talk about learning and we're talking about digital skills and we're trying to redesign what we're doing, and that has changed. Has this pandemic caused the job market to be even more competitive than it already was? Now that you have ramping up of your digital skills, and is that competition harder now than previously?
Okay, I wouldn't say harder, but I would say it's different.
Right.
I think some things that were used to be maybe like things have become a bit more commoditized. I think over time, as more people adopt these skills and they go for classes, they learn and they start implementing it, more and more people actually have those skills. But definitely, what we are seeing as a trend is that things are not just moving in terms of job skills, right, and job opportunities. We're seeing competition coming in not just locally, but also globally. Because now that you open up the market to a remote working environment, we're seeing that technically someone who's working from home in Singapore can be working from home in another part of the world. So I think it's like you said again, mindset change, right? Like we no longer should see it as like physical space that we're only limited to maybe local, but the mindset has also for businesses to think like, how can I compete, globally as well. So I think it's different rather than harder.
Yeah, thanks Sharon for sharing. I mean, I personally noticed, during this whole pandemic and staying home, I think in terms of the food services industry, the digital things had to change from a lean manpower crunch. All the more they had to ramp up their digital skills, and the skills that you'll need for the future is not just digital, but one that is increasingly digitalized. So which brings me to my next speaker. Okay, there's been many great questions from the audience. I'm extremely heartened to see a lot of interactive discussion going around with the panelists and attendees. So I'll invite JL, our co-founder and chief problem solver of my working title. JL, what is your perspective on the importance of critical skills to support the move towards greater digitalization?
Yeah, so thank you, Kelly, for having me, and thank you for the wonderful sharing by all the amazing people before me. So critical core skills, just like Samir was saying, right, there's a lot of digital transformation going on. Sharon also alluded to a lot of digital skills that are needed. I think that is a mix. If you allow me, I'm a visual learner, so I have a slide prepared. If you don't mind, I share that. It might be easier for me to just explain the point. Just give me a moment.
Sure, Jill. Thank you for sharing.
No problem. Okay, so if I can just share screen. Can you give me some screen sharing rights if you don't mind? Yeah. Yeah. Great, perfect. Okay, so I have this slide here. So just a quick background also, so that you know where I'm coming from. I work with a lot of companies, schools, and individuals to help people make sense make of what's going on. So there's tons of stuff that Paying have shared, like industries that are moving up and down, competition is increasing. Samir is talking about the transformation that's going on, Sharon and the digital skills. So how do we make sense together, right? So there is this whole short-term hard skills, right? Like data analytics, RPA, whatever. There's just so many things that's going on. And I think it meets the short-term needs, right? So I don't know, RPA may be here tomorrow will be whatever, right? RGA and whatever else. So it just keeps going and going and going. And machine learning is getting smarter and smarter each day. And what I see is people need to invest. And companies need to invest in young people, old people, middle people, whatever you call it. And I think it's really beyond the age and entry level. It's what I call the long-term soft skills, right? So I think SkillsFuture has also provided this thing called critical core skills, right? What I really like is skills that build skills. So it's not just, oh, please collaborate with each other. Okay, please be agile. But it's really how do you think critically? How do you interact with each other? And how do you stay relevant? So I think these are the three key baskets. There are many things that we need. I think like what Sharon is saying, agility, right? Learning agility is one of the key things you need today. collaborating, creativity, problem solving, like Samir was saying, right? I mean, there's just logistics is changing, finance is changing. How are you able to solve the problems of the business now? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jill. I guess from a job skills insight perspective, problem solving, adaptability, learning agility, sense making, these are critical competencies that we see that are much needed and needs to be applied together with the hard skills. So I'm just going to open this up as we talk more, we deep dive further. This is open to all. In terms of working from home and homemade recruitment, has it been more difficult in terms of the hiring process? And how can someone, be it fresh grad or a mid-career change, how can they prepare for such a recruitment? Even if it involves both the digital, your hard skills and your soft skills, how can one prepare themselves in this new working environment?
I take that question because I train a lot of young people on how to do digital interviews and be prepared for that, and also be prepared for that transition into working remotely. Because as a young person graduating, right, there are a couple of things that you're going through. One is that you're transiting from school to work, and you're transiting from a physical workplace to a digital workspace. Internships are remote. First jobs is remote. How do you manage up? How do you manage your peers, right? How do you be visible? How do you be promoted? How do you make sure you know, there's like kind of like, do this task. Then you're like, how do I do this and where do I do that? So there's a lot of transitions going on. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I understand. So in that aspect, right, we have a question from the Q&A. So they're asking, how long do you think it will take for the job market to recover, and which sector do you think will take lead? I think Ping shared some insights on that just now, right, Ping? Would you like to take this question?
Yes. So what we've seen, although it's at this point in time, the situation is still evolving. A lot of things are changing, and a lot of this depends on how we get the virus under control and control the spread of it. I think that it's difficult to say how long it would take to recover, but what we do believe, like globally, because this is a pandemic that has affected many different countries, and Singapore, as we all know, is highly connected and highly has a very strong trade relationship with a lot of countries. So the recovery for Singapore will also be dependent not just on Singapore alone, but on how everyone else recovers together.
True. Yeah. Just keeping the faith, right? Yeah. Okay, Samir, we have one question from a participant, basically asking, to what extent do you think certain job roles like forklift operators are inclined towards operating services of autonomous guide vehicles? What are your thoughts on this? And how else what else can be done for that mindset change to help these workers in terms of that mindset change, to move from a manual labor to a more digitalized skill?
Yeah, so thanks for that, Kelly, and thank you for the participant to ask that question. That's a super detailed question, and I could go on for many minutes on it. But let me give you a high-level answer to this. So, firstly, the forklift operator in the study that EY did on logistics was a highly impacted job role. So what that means is this job role is going to be displaced or converged with another job role as digital transformation happens in the logistics facility, right? So there is that case for change. So if today you were someone who was performing that role, or if you're in an organization that you had many forklift operators, firstly, you need to think about what you're going to do with them, how you're going to reskill them so that they remain relevant for the future. The second component to it is there are few roles that the forklift operator can go to, right? If you look at it from a skills-based angle. And some of those roles are newly created job roles. They are not traditional job roles in your logistics facility. For example, mobility to a new role in the forklift operator could be I4.0 maintenance specialist, or it could be a drone operator or an automation technician, right? Now, there are certain skills that the operator has. You would need to transform and relook at those skills and add in and top up certain skills, like, for example, robotic automation system maintenance is a skill. So you would need to top that up in order to make the role relevant for the new I4.0 role. There are also other options for the forklift operator. The other options could be vertical mobility within the same function, and that maybe in terms of becoming a warehouse supervisor or inventory control supervisor, which addition to the technical skills that are required would need some of those critical core skills. That means, and I like the Jill's comment of skills that build skills. Pick up those skills so that you can build more skills. So in simple ways, firstly, you need a couple of things, and you obviously need a learning mindset or a digital mindset from the organization, because the organization needs to drive this training. There are a lot of comments that, you know, businesses are the schools of tomorrow in terms of driving learning. The second, you need an open learning mindset from the individual who's performing that job to transform to the next job.
Right. Thank you, Samir, for that. Just to go on to a bit deep diving. Now we know that job seekers are also likely considering to switch industries. So you have your construction, in terms of their construction, who are the people who want to switch? Like what kind of profiles do they have? And are they predominantly from the renovation and design firms? And have they successfully switched their careers? Would you have any idea, or anybody else?
Sorry, Kelly, you want me to answer that? I can.
Yeah, if you could.
Yeah. So again, I won't go deep into construction, but let me share a bit around some of the EY COVID-19 research that we put together. And in fact, Business Times and Straits Times covered this fairly extensively, right? So one thing we put together on this was the fact that there are certain industries that are needing to reshape or reskill. For example, accommodation, food services, air transport, construction, retail, right? But at the same time, there are industries that are fairly aggressive in terms of hiring at this current moment. And if the people with the right skills in those highly impacted sectors are able to transform across, they can. For example, some of the ones that are on the high end in terms of still needing a lot of people would be biopharma manufacturing, financial services, social services, media, logistics, healthcare, so on and so forth, right? Now, I touched a bit earlier around the fact that and this is a bit from a job seeker's view as well, right? If a job seeker is writing his or her CV in terms of what he or she did in his last industry and writing it in terms of the task that they're looking at, it is difficult to understand how those tasks become relevant to another sector. But if you write your experiences more from an experiential standpoint and the skills that you develop, the transition becomes a lot easier, right? And therefore the domain skills of the new industry need to get pulled up or played up. So I think that's an approach that should be taken, and going forth, it also does ensure that you know, the jobs remain employable in today's market.
Great. Thanks, Samir. Ping, I do have a question for you. Speaking of all these different sectors, going from logistics to the construction, with the focus on COVID and its recovery, and especially now on the importance of healthcare, hygiene, and a few others, are there specific job roles that have opened up in these sectors?
So, I mean, I think we all know that a lot of new jobs have opened up. Things like safe distancing ambassadors, roles to help companies transition to a more digital culture, and also even roles or services that require work from home. So I think we see all of these emerging as remote work and as work from home becomes more common. I also see that there's a question in the chat about customer service and how it has evolved. I'm going to speak to this not just about customer service alone, but in general of all jobs, that we see a shift towards enabling automated replies for more common issues, and we also see a switch towards increased virtual interactions. And this is really, part of it is COVID, but part of it was also a natural transition which was already going on. If you think about customer service, for example, a lot of customer service questions don't come in person, even before COVID. A lot of it comes in virtually or from call-in centers. What we do see, however, is that COVID has accelerated the need for people to switch to and to really embrace the shift to digital.
Thank you, Pei. JL, there's a question on how important are soft skills and how critical are they? So, I mean, we feel that these technical skills are usually assessed during the interview and shortlisting stage. Are employees, do you feel or do you see employees assessing these soft skills competency of these candidates, and how are they doing so?
Yeah, so increasingly we are seeing employers hiring managers looking at things like learning agility, etc. So how they assess it will be quite interesting. A lot of times, usually it's just the one-on-one interviews. We are seeing increasingly case studies. So they will give you like say an hour and a half to prepare to solve a problem. Right? They give you a problem and then they ask you to do a presentation about it, and it's very, very common. So that tests your critical thinking skills, your creative problem solving skills, and also group interviews. We are seeing more group interviews where they can see whether you collaborate with each other, whether you are a sole, werewolf leader type, or you're really working with each other. That's very common. One of the things that we've recently heard is also dramatization. So during, say, an assessment center, you are kind of doing your general interview. Somebody comes in and just like acts like a stakeholder that's very, very angry, and you have to react to that. So it is also emotional intelligence, being able to negotiate, etc., etc. I do see also another question from PPCR about recruitment. How do you identify these long-term skills, etc., for fresh grads as PMETs, etc.? I really think that these skills, please go and look at the link that SSG has sent. It really cuts across age groups, at whatever level you are. I mean, learning agility, whether you are 25, you are 55, it is something that is expected and required at this moment. Yep.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that. Moving on, we are having a lot of questions coming in. Okay, we have one in terms, we're talking about different sectors. So we've gone from construction to logistics to healthcare. Now we move on to the F&B sector. If I were in the F&B sector, how can I anticipate my job being more digital, and how can I prepare myself in that sense? And I understand that there are some tasks that have gone digital because of this COVID. A lot of restaurants, a lot of companies, in the food line had to move across that, and online ordering, order processing. I mean, in terms from a job skills insight, that's what we see, an emerging trend and a change of skills. Sharon, what else can they do in terms to move themselves to the next level from a food services sector in sense?
Right. So so I think circuit breaker was really really interesting time to see what F&B companies are doing. So I had a really, really good opportunity to work with some of the top brands and some of the smaller brands in the F&B sector, to really see like what people are doing and what is necessary in the industry. So I mean, of course, the things that we all know about right now that Enterprise Singapore is also heavily supporting is kind of moving digital, going to like online delivery. So there is also a lot more focus. I mean, I think from at this current level, we're talking about operating this digital systems, just being very comfortable, being very savvy and resourceful with operating them. There's also the sales and marketing portion. So I think we covered a bit about customer service digitally. So everyone is absolutely right. The questions don't come personally these days. It's always like virtually. You can ask questions. You even have to anticipate the questions that they can ask and address them ahead of time. So that is kind of has changed in terms of consumer behavior. They're expecting answers or FAQs to be there as well. I think there's also the marketing component we are seeing that's very, very integrated with the success or the not so success full stories that we are seeing from the F&B sector. So what was really interesting was that, a lot of F&Bs do not actually heavily invest digitally before COVID. And we are seeing that the ones that do actually build a really strong digital following even before COVID. And we saw that when they pivoted, people just came to support. And some of them actually did better than ever. To kind of bring on to some of the future trends, I think the question is about the future of digital art. Is that we are seeing emergence of things like club kitchens, virtual brands, really just kind of thinking about like how can we break out of the usual dining in mindset. Food be created at some place, we just market it virtually and we can sell it and deliver it to your home. There's a lot of things like frozen, so you do need some digital skills in terms of the kind of hardware, the kind of machinery involved as well. We're also seeing a lot of data analytics right? Who is buying from you? Who are these people that perhaps in the past would not have come to you, but now would come to you, or do you know the demographics and the breakdown so that you can better target them and serve them better and change your menu to serve them better? So I think in the past there was a lot of kind of judging them based on their expression in the restaurant, but now we are heavily encouraged to embrace some of this digital technology to be able to capture like analytics, who is buying from you. So I think these are just some of the skills that we really see F&B transforming in a very short time, this year locally. So hopefully that helps. Skills.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. That is very interesting because we see, I mean, F&B initially, I think when it started, it was already quite a tough sector. And now with this, they've been made to job redesign, upskill themselves. And I think there is an upward trend. They see some positive light coming in that sense. The next question we got from a Q&A, we're moving slightly from a F&B to a different role. Do you think that manufacturing can go into automation? Because manufacturing jobs are mainly taken up by foreigners, and how will this attract locals? Samir, would you like to take this question, please?
Yep, definitely. And thanks for the question. I think for manufacturing, the opportunity is ripe for Industry 4.0 transformation. And EDB runs this Smart Industry Readiness Index, which is primarily catered for manufacturing firms to understand what digital transformation is. Now, if you peel the onion a bit further around why I say Industry 4.0 and manufacturing is ripe, when you look at this, you look at it across maybe three broad pillars. Process. So what's going to change in the manufacturing organization from an operations, supply chain, product lifecycle standpoint? Technology, which is automation, connectivity, intelligence, and last but not least is organization in terms of talent readiness, structure, and management. Now, if you ask the question around manufacturing be ripe for automation, yes. But what happens to that automation is the current employees that are performing their job, some of the repetitive tasks go away. So even if you take, for example, an RPA solution or a data analytics solution or a wearable gadget solution, it will take away some of the repetitive tasks for which at the local Singapore level, we may have a higher dependency on foreign labor. But once we recalibrate this and we bring the job to a high level, I think the locals will be more interested in those jobs. I think the other point here is, some of this COVID-19 actually helped in many ways. I mean, very few things that COVID-19 helped in, this could be one of them now, which is with the borders being closed, we were forced to redesign our processes, redesign the technology that we actually live in, and therefore redesign our jobs. And that may be a boon towards incentive towards redesigning and moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. Yeah, that is very important. I think more than ever, redesigning of jobs and changing that up is very important for the current workforce. But in terms of just going one more question, going digital and increased automation. Basically, do you see how are there certain job roles that you can see the switch that happen from in terms of the manufacturing job roles? Are there specific job roles that you see that switch happening?
Yeah, so definitely, and this is true nearly of every organization. What in the manufacturing perspective is the operator roles that start shifting at a much faster rate than maybe the others. But the operator roles can only shift if the production manager role also shifts, right? You can't just have the operator changing his or her role and the production manager doing everything in the same way. So it's nearly across the entire organization, but the impact highly is felt across production operators, production specialists. And the impetus, however, is felt at the manager or the I'd say the factory manager level as well, because they need to now create the culture. They need to now imbibe on the solutions and systems. It's nearly a top-down, bottom-up approach, because top-down, because the implementation of digital transformation, the ROI investment, the payback period, and all needs to be settled at the top. The operator is not going to decide, I want to implement a wearable gadget into my system. It has to be done at the top, right? But bottom-up is the flow-through effect that allows for this to happen in a seamless way.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. Shifting now from all of these scopes now is to the actual writing to finding that job. Are there any examples in terms of resume from an experiential perspective for a job seeker who is seeking transition to a new job role or industry? Ping, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, sure. So great question. I think it's important to know that, every job seeker is different and every job seeker is, brings to the table different things as well. So it's hard to say if there are types of examples that can guarantee you to switch or to get a job. But what I would say throughout that we see across a lot of examples is the importance of networks. So it's important to have a strong network, knowing someone else who is in the company and being able to get an inside look at what the company is like. Because, you know, it's not just about getting the job, it's also about getting to know the job and the company better when you build the networks inside the companies that you're trying to join. And as we all know, culture is so important right now. It's really like what makes your work life so much better if you find a good fit between what you believe in and what your prospective employer and your prospective company believes in. So I would say like really build your networks and build stronger networks for this.
Thank you, thank you, Ping. Yeah, JL?
Yeah, I just would like to build on that point. I think it's important to have networks because it's also to find out what is required in that specific industry or role that you're moving into, right? So if you have informational interviews with people who are in that company and you're like, oh, okay, this role requires this skills. And I look at my resume, hey, I don't have those skills, right? So I have got to find a way to match, the close that gap. That's one, right?
Yes.
And I think if you're switching to a new industry, as an employer, you typically look at a few things. One is whether you have the proof that you are interested in that field. So are you studying? Are you gaining volunteering experience? Are you volunteering for any projects? And if you have some form of experience or propensity to want to try, then I'm like, okay, I might want to receive you, right? Second thing I want to look at is transferable skills. Do you have existing skills that you can transport to your current role? So I think those are the two key things I would say to look out for so the resume is a downstream thing, right?
Yeah.
It is really finding out what upstream, what's required, what are the things around it, and then you write your resume or post it on LinkedIn, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jill. Thanks for supporting that. In all of this, I think the idea for some going into digitalization or upskilling with digital skills is a very daunting task, especially for people who don't really work with numbers. And more than ever, most of these jobs that we are in or that we see that are coming up, emerging jobs, we see a lot more of these must-have digital skills in that sense. So what is a good way or, you know, a more less intimidating way to start learning about this, you know? Sharon, would you like to share?
Sure, I think this is a very interesting question for me because I work with like a lot of SMEs, and I think SMEs are quite well known to be like, oh no, you know, like we don't want to, we're quite scared of this, and so it's been interesting. A few, 8 years in this business, just helping and seeing the SMEs grow. Some of them have really taken off, and but I do see this question being very relevant. I think first of all is like everyone says, you know, right here on the panel today, like, you know, don't worry, you know, I think there are a lot of resources out there to be able to help you. I think the first step is just daring to take the first step, you know, to say that I'm going to try and I'm willing to embrace this rather than see as something that's to be fearful of. You know, so, okay, I think this is, in terms of going more technically on analytic skills or digital marketing skills, which is something I help businesses with. It's really, I think, to just be even observing it from, you know, like if you're a business and you don't necessarily have to jump into, or as an individual, you don't have to jump directly into analytics hardcore per se. You know, you can actually do some fringe kind of like, you know, just perhaps in the area of like even customer service or marketing, right? You will get in touch with a lot of this analytic skills. I think just being open to like exploring on the site, that's kind of when you get to first touch it, right? Like you don't have to be in the role fully. But, you know, let's say you're you're marketing in a small SME or you're in an F&B sector, you know, just being open by saying, hey, you know what, we like to take a look at some analytics, take a look at some numbers to begin with. That would really open up, you know, how you analyze and how you make decisions based on analytics. So a lot of people actually, you know, jump straight into analytics, but, you know, there's also a fundamental like skills that there are things like statistics, you know, for example, that you can actually start looking at. I'm sure SSG has a list of, you know, kind of plans or kind of important skills that's required. So I would say, kind of going back all into like the being courageous, not just being a bit more daring and not being so to take on those tasks.
Thanks, Sharon. We've got a very interesting question. I mean, this one is very interesting. How do you think the current situation would affect people with disabilities and sectors that have traditionally been have been badly impacted? So are there any sectors that these people with disabilities can look at? This is open to all, please.
So maybe Kelly, not really a direct answer, and I'll probably give my other panelists more time to think through this very, very interesting question. But I think COVID-19 in some ways is a fair leveler across the entire workforce. Traditionally, when you thought work from home was not even an option on the table, or even if it was, and if a company was thinking of applying work from home, they would take 3-5 years even before deciding the policy. In a circuit breaker period in 4 weeks, everyone had to do it, right? So it's a great leveler to bring different elements of the workforce to contribute to an organization, be it in terms of having a diverse workforce and a more inclusive workforce, right? So today, let's assume if there is someone with a disability, I don't see, as long as they have the right skills, I don't see as in the past, it may have been not an enabler for the person to be able to contribute actively to the workforce. But I think now if they have the right skills, they are equally able to be able to contribute. And I think a lot of our mindsets have changed. As we've changed as consumers, we've also changed as employers and as individuals.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you. Basically, I mean, we've heard everything else, from, like I said, so we've heard from the digital aspect, we've seen the data and how sectors are recovering. We've gone on deep dive in terms of how skills and individuals can be prepared and equip their right skills to meet the new and emerging job roles and to stay relevant, to reskill and to basically be open and changing your mindset in terms, not just your hard or digital skills, but as well as your critical core skills. In this aspect, I'm just going to wrap up with this last question. If we all had a crystal ball in that sense, right? What does 2021 mean for you? And I think, can we go through with each of the speaker, and then maybe Paying, you can start first.
Oh, Kelly, throwing me to start first. All right, this is a really difficult question. I wish I had a crystal ball. For me, I think 2021 really means, and in fact, 2020 has been a prelude to what to expect for 2021, right? There's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of disruption in the way that we do things. But I think what 2021 means for me personally is to always have a growth mentality, is to always embrace change and see the opportunity that comes with change. And more broadly, I think it also provides an opportunity for everyone really to think differently about the way you're doing things, think about what the future means for you and what all this disruption provides in terms of opportunity.
Thank you, Bing. Thank you. Sharon?
I think Ping has summarized it really well. I'm all about the adaptability and learning, and there's also unlearning. I think what we have been so used to. I also wish I have a crystal ball to know what's happening, but because we don't, right? And the only way you can do it is really to be on your feet, to be on your toes, really, and see what comes, and having a mindset of, hey, I'm willing to take this on. Anything is possible. I know that sounds kind of kind of cheesy, but I think that kind of mindset has I've seen that happen to people and really break through no matter what comes. Yeah, so that would be my pick on 2021.
Thank you, Sharon. So Jill, what are your thoughts? What's your crystal ball saying?
In some sense, I ignore the crystal ball because I think with 2020, we've seen that there are a lot of things that we cannot predict or control, right? Yeah. Then I think I would rather focus on what I can control, what we can control, right? So I think that the key thing, the first word that came to me was actually experimentation. It's going to be a lot of changes and requires a lot of agility. and therefore we need to continue to experiment. Whether you're a business, whether you are individual, whether you're school, everyone is still going to be in experimentation mode. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Mr. Samir, what are your thoughts?
Oh, so that's a very, very difficult question. None of us have a crystal ball, but I have a golf ball here in front of me. So let me tell you what the golf ball says, right? Firstly, I'm so happy with the question, because the traditional question would be, what would the next 5 years be like, right? And 5 years now is such a long horizon that we can't even think there. And in fact, I'll ask everyone who's listening to this, how often in 2015, how many people did you interview? And how many people did you ask the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I put my hand up, I did ask that question. Now I feel like I was really off by asking that question. So firstly, we brought our time horizons of thinking, even crystal ball now 1 year, before crystal ball was 5 years, 10 years, everyone's creating a 5-10 year strategy. Now we're creating a crystal ball 1 year strategy. I think that's important. In fact, we may even have a crystal ball 3-month strategy right now, right? Because we don't know where we are with COVID, what is the state with vaccination, how quickly it'll be ready, and who there's a lot of talk about emerging stronger after COVID. There also needs to be enough talk about living with COVID, because who tells you in 1 year's time there may be COVID part 2 or part 3 also in play, right? So firstly, what this is actually saying is our timeline has become a lot shorter when we talk of the future, right? At the same time, I need to be adaptable and need to be ready for whatever's coming and thrown to us next week, right? Needs to be there. So for me personally, I think my, EY has a purpose to build a better working world. My role in this purpose is to help my organizations, help agencies, government, and all my clients to adapt through this process. And for me personally, I believe I need to build a lifelong learning organization for myself and be a lifelong learner as well, because what got us to this level is not going to keep us at this level unless we continue to drive a lifelong learning mindset. And if we walk the talk on this, our entire organizations and our clients will also walk the talk on this.
I agree. Thank you, Samir. I think from all of these conversations, we see that I foresee my crystal ball in that sense, we will definitely have a more resilient and agile workforce that have been nimble and ready to take on any challenges that come their way. We at SSG have programs and initiatives that will help individuals to transit to this new norm and to prepare themselves for the workplace in order to continuously upskill and be ready to be, most importantly, adaptable as we navigate ourselves out of this COVID-19 era, right? Now, the time has passed by really quickly with such engaging and insightful discussions. I personally found that with our panelists have shared to be very, very useful and practical to individuals, right from fresh grads, what do they need to prep, looking at your resumes, seeing how not just hard skills like your digital skills that you need to be ramped up, but very importantly, your critical core skills also needs to be go hand in hand together as we step towards the next step of this, right? So I hope all attendees can take away some useful information and urge individuals to take up some of these support schemes and programs. Now, as we bring the webinar to a close, I would like to invite you to take a 2-minute survey. Your feedback will of course be kept confidential. It's very important to us and will help us improve our future webinars to serve you better. Do feel free to join us in our monthly webinar. Okay. So this is the post webinar. You can just your QR code. Next month, we have the October webinar where we will be deep diving a little bit more into a sector specific. You can scan the QR code and straight away register for next month's webinar. All right, so if you're interested. We also have some links for everyone. If you're interested to find out about what initiatives SkillsFuture has, you can refer to the link to the enterprise portals for job and skills on screen, right? Just give everybody some time to take that down. All of this information and these slides will be sent out to all the attendees. Those questions that have not been answered, we will be sending out, we will answer them. We will collate the answers and send it out together with the deck, not to worry. Just a reminder, today's webinar session will be hosted on My SkillsFuture portal, SSG's LinkedIn page, as well as a YouTube channel. And once again, my name is Kelly, and together with Matthew and Phoebe, We want to thank Ping, Samir, Sharon, and JL for taking the time out of their busy schedule with us today. Thank you and stay safe.